We're at Susie and Drew's house. This is their apartment, their backyard, all the plants. Walking up a street in Annapolis. We're right here in the waterfront. This is the Capitol building, and up here is the Naval Academy. This is a waterfront house in historic Annapolis, built in the 1600s probably, and it tells you all about the history of Annapolis in here. Tacos, crab cakes. Are the crab cakes good?
They're really good.
Monkfish and catfish. We're in Ocean City, Maryland on the boardwalk, the famous boardwalk. Ocean City. What number geocache is this?
Oh, I don't know, 3,000 something.
We're at the end of the boardwalk and we see just across this little inlet, Assateague Island. Where the sunset is bright. That's a fox. Ocean City, Maryland. Going across the street, a fox. He's lost.
Nice sunset coming off of Ocean City.
We awoke this morning and the Airbnb looks awesome. There's the fire pit, that looks nice, and the little creek that we can kayak on. We're at Assateague Island Visitor Center. So we were in Ocean City last night. A tiny little bit of water separates this long island down all the way down here is Chinatown. From Assateague to Chinatown, the pony swim is right there. And then they auction them off in Chinatown. You can't drive on the Virginia side of Assateague, but you can in Maryland. Going up this boardwalk on a marshy trail out. Now we're doing a forest trail. There are a billion little fishies here, all in a big mass. Just over there, a few yards, is the bayside. We're in the high point, and literally just a few yards is the campground and the ocean side over there. We're gonna have a little picnic on the beach. We're starting a sand dune trail. It's only 3/4 of a mile. This whole island was going to be developed. In 1962, a huge hurricane came and destroyed every building on the island. The dunes are always shifting. In fact, the whole island is shifting to the west because there are no barriers. This is remnants of the only paved road as of when the 1962 storm hit and destroyed everything. Listen to the birds. These horses have been on this island since the 1600s. They roam free. Oh, cool. They're really small. We're at an historic boathouse. This shows how they would rescue people on a boat if it was close enough. During 40 years of service from 1875 to 1915, they responded to more than 250 incidents and only 2 resulted in the loss of life. That is incredible. The Northern Sea robin uses its pelvic fins for feelers. The eel is in a black-fingered mud crab. That the horses on the Maryland side are about 80 to 100. They keep them in that range by vaccinating the females so that they do not reproduce between the ages of 2 and 4 years. The horses come to the beach during the summer months because they want to avoid the bugs by rolling in the sand and because it's breezier. The Maryland side, the horses run free or part of the National Park Service, where in Virginia, it is owned by the Chinatown Volunteer Fire Company. We're in Berlin, America, and this is voted the cutest little town in America. And this ice cream, Island Creamery, was voted in USA Today as the best ice cream in America. This is a double. This is a kids.
This is a single. What?
We are in an antique emporium. Why? That's the reason right there.
Natural bridge.
Another antique shop claiming to be the best on the Eastern Shore. Seen from the balcony. Drew down there in the hammock. The fire pit we want to go use tonight.
Petrified. That's the way to go.
A little bit.
We're going kayaking on the creek that's beside the Airbnb, which is right there. While out here, take a little video of everything. We are kayaking in the marsh. It is very shallow here. I did a stroke and I almost got my oar stuck in the mud. Got some nice flowers. Mark is washing off his shoes after he drug us out of the mud bank. That was fun. Coming up in Berlin again to the farmer's market. We are basically in exactly the same spot we were yesterday. Same streets, same shopping, but very different situation. One thing I really like about Maryland is they wave their flag everywhere.
It's Mother's Day and we're at Captain Zach's enjoying some seafood for Mother's Day lunch. Dig in.
We had lunch on Chinatown and now we're back on Assateague, but the southern end, the Virginia end, and we're gonna do the Lighthouse Trail. We're at the Assateague Island Lighthouse. That's a tall one. Red and white stripe. Here's Assateague Island. We were up here on the Maryland side yesterday. Today we're down here. We ate lunch in the town of Chinatown. The pony swims across the channel here, and then they sell the foals at an auction. The ponies in the southern part of Assateague that is managed by Virginia are here, fenced in. This is the southern portion of Assateague that is controlled by Virginia, and these ponies do not run free. They're enclosed behind this fence. It's a large area. We see a bald eagle up in the tree.
See what was defining about it.
Biggest danger here is running aground, but it's so muddy you could probably just push yourself out with the oar. Drew is finding a geocache.
Hooray! We got a logbook, a Smart Trip card. Hey, going to DC. Buzz Lightyear, and some other little stuff.
We're on a bus to Washington, D.C. from Annapolis. We're in Union Station in Washington, D.C. We dropped our bags off. This is the Ford's Theater, starting a tour. This is the museum. This is Peterson House, where Lincoln was taken and died. This is the room where Lincoln died. There's just 34 stars, but there were 36 actual states at the time of the death. This is a tower of books about Lincoln. This is the Magna Carta, 1297. King John signed it. This is one of the 4 surviving Magna Cartas. We saw one in London. This is the real Declaration of Independence with John Hancock right there. Gosh, very faded. There's the preamble, Constitution, Article 1. We're in a rotunda. This is the Bill of Rights. This is the Bill of Rights when they were finalizing it. Benjamin Franklin was the first Postmaster General, and this was his table of postage rates. Well, we're walking out of the National Archives into the mall, and we've found this little sculpture garden. We're going to the Washington Monument now. Well, through the raindrops on the window, there's Department of Commerce over there. White House is right there. Okay, now we're going to see MLK Memorial, Potomac River, the Lincoln Memorial, World War II, Vietnam memorials. There's the Lincoln Memorial. Oh, World War II is right there. That huge thing right there.
In front.
Yeah. The Vietnam is to the right of the Lincoln. And the Korean one is to the left of the Lincoln. Thomas Jefferson Memorial right there in the tidal basin. So between 2011 and 2014, they closed it because of an earthquake and a crack formed up here. You can see some of the places where they repaired it here. But way down there is the Capitol building and the Supreme Court, and all along the mall are the Smithsonian buildings. The largest stone structure in the world with no steel beams. It's 555 feet. It's only half the size of Eiffel Tower, way smaller than the Empire State Building. When it was completed in 1884, it was the world's tallest building for a very short time before the Eiffel Tower was open. There's the National Archives that we were in. We're inside the courtyard of the National Museum of American Art and the National Portrait Gallery. Throne of Heaven by Hampton. This is foil, cardboard, plastic. We're in the National Portrait Gallery. It's Biden. This is the one I wanted to see. We're on the Staten Island ferry pulling out. The bird's following us.
It's probably the stuff in the wing, maybe.
Yeah. Wow, we really have a lot of birds here. Probably, I'm counting around 20. This is the Staten Island 911 memorial called Postcards. The Staten Island residents who died in 9/11. This is Castle Clinton in Battery Park. So Castle Clinton was built in 1811, first as a fort to defend New York Harbor, then it was a amphitheater for a concert hall, then it was in 1855 where immigrants entered the U.S., then it was an aquarium, and now it's a national monument. This fort never saw any action, any military action. Now Castle Clinton's primary purpose is selling tickets to the Statue of Liberty in Ellis Island. This is a fish carousel. This is New York Supreme Pizza. They have all kinds of pizza. Both got the same kind, some kind of fig and bacon. We're in Times Square, in line for the Lion King. Probably a lot of these kids don't know the movie. Today we're going to Governor's Island, taking the ferry over. It's only 3 minutes. We're on the ferry. There goes the Staten Island ferry. This is Castle Williams. Here's Castle Williams right here, and this is the fort on the hill up there. The fort is not open right now. So there was a twin castle on the other side of the island. The British never attempted to assault in 1812 because of these two forts.
Anyone have any questions or concerns about that? Alrighty then. So, with that,
This was one of the very first forts that used archways to support multi-stories. This fort was circular, which was an optical illusion and caused enemy artillery to miss it, although it was never fired on. There were 8 forts that defended New York Harbor. The British turned around in 1812 or 1814 and went and attacked Washington instead. This was used as a prisoner of war housing area for Southern troops in the Civil War. The red sandstone was used specifically because it came locally from New Jersey and because it was more shock absorbent than granite. So it was used as a correctional facility after the Civil War for small infractions. These are single cell compartments.
They also wouldn't have been black like this. This is what we did. So these would have been the historic actual steps that would have been here since the castle's construction.
Facility used to have 100 cannons. It's circular. That's why it's called a castle. This is going to show the vantage point of why it's so important that they could hit the ships as they went by. It's circular so that they could hit it from every angle and as it progressed through Manhattan.
That is Brooklyn.
Which one's Brooklyn? I'm sorry.
Brooklyn,
All of that there, that's all
Manhattan, New Jersey.
That is the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yes.
Staten
Statue.
Island. Stone Tower.
Castle Clinton over there.
Launch a 400-pound shot over 3 miles into Washington Square Park. And what does this mean? This means these forts are now too close. These forts cannot do a good enough job protecting, because by this point, they're too close and into the city and the harbor. Thank you so much for joining us today, folks. Hope you all have a
So,
wonderful afternoon.
Castle Williams, Fort J, and South Battery are all on Governor's Island. Fort J was to defend the island. Castle Williams and South Battery to defend the harbor. Fort Wood is on Statue of Liberty Island. Fort Gibson's Ellis. Castle Clinton was in Manhattan. And then the other two are up the Hudson.
First thing they've got to do is they've got to send the sponge down to make sure that there's no fire still there. They push that powder all the way to the back of the barrel, and then they push the round all the way to the back of the barrel. Then they've got to get it in battery, in position, with mercury and gunpowder. And when that lanyard is snapped, it's going to cause the friction, which causes the initial chemical reaction, which causes the explosion, exploding the powder, expelling the round.
Old stuff would go a mile, 32 pounds. And then when steel was used in ships, they could have bigger ships so they could house bigger guns. A 400-pound gun can go 3 miles and it could destroy a target being protected despite the forts.
That's the 32-pounder and this is the
400-pounder.
This is a spa on Governor's Island. There's this purple bridge we're walking on. We're walking along in Battery Park towards Chinatown. We're at Pier 16 on Fulton Street. And this is a tall ship from the 1800s. Now we're walking on Fulton Street. We were just walking on South Street by the water. Fulton Street. Lots of cool little shops. Fulton Street from South Street to Water Street is cobblestone and pedestrian only. Underneath the Brooklyn Bridge. We're in Chinatown in Manhattan. Making the noodles. These are the buns. They're very yummy.
Finished up the dumplings and we're moving on to
Yummy soup.
whatever that yum is.
Noodles. Yummy. Yummy noodles.
Yummy noodles. In 1915, the best hand-pulled noodles.
Okay, I'm gonna cut some of the noodles so we can share it. Never cut noodles before. Just past all these foo-foo shopping areas on Madison Avenue, and now we're at a French cafe waiting for our time slot to the Frick, getting a latte. This is the Frick Museum we're about to enter. It's a long line because it was just renovated for 2 years. We are in West Village in line for a comedy show. We're at the Comedy Cellar. We have to turn off our phones and put them in a pouch. Just like at the Frick, we couldn't take any photos at the Frick either. We're at Macy's. They're having some kind of a spring flower thing.
I don't want to hold on to this.
We're We're at Macy's right when they open and people are just streaming in. This is their flower show. Got flowers everywhere. Getting the clap treatment. Their annual flower show, I guess, in the spring. Most of these flowers are real. We're at Manhattan School of Music, picking up Luke, picking up his stuff, really, to go home. Stegosaurus. Little bones in the eyeballs and almost the complete skeleton. They drew in the bones that were missing and there's not many of them. This is another hadrosaur. Almost complete skeleton. Triceratops. It's held together by metal strips. These are dinosaur eggs. What a great exhibit hall. Here are a bunch of early relatives of mammals. Saber-toothed tiger. It's huge. This guy lived in Texas 10 million years ago. These are early relatives of elephants. Here's a mammoth. This is so huge, it doesn't fit in the room. Oh, look at that, that's so cool. This is an Allosaurus. This is the Apatosaurus, the big one. This Tyrannosaurus Rex was found in Montana. It's an actual skeleton. This is a large iron-rich meteorite. This is the Hall of the North American Mammals, and it's a lot of dioramas. These dioramas are very amazing. There are many of them, 100 of them. Now we're in Africa. Pictures of the insects are so enlarged and crisp and clear. The museum has several huge sections of people and cultures of different continents. OMG, look at all of these birds. The rocks and gems. I think that they have every single kind of rock and mineral in the world here. I swear. This is the largest meteorite on display in the world. That's what I feel like. My brain has exploded with all the facts. We're back at the South Street Seaport Museum. In 1660, Manhattan was New Amsterdam. Today, New York Harbor is the 23rd busiest port, where 90% of the world's trade is still carried in ships. This is the tall ship Waverly, and we're going to go on it.
This is the last remaining iron hull, three-masted ship for hauling cargo that has survived, built in the 1880s. The ship was part of the sailing cargo ships, and then they became relatively obsolete as fuel like coal became more used and speed became more important in shipping.
This is the saloon, and the captain often brought his family on board to sail with him, and they lived back here. This is the quarter deck, or the poop deck. Stern is connected to the ship's rudder down below. They stand behind it and steer. So this is the capstan, and they had poles on each hole and a man pushing, and that would lift up sails and pull cargo, anything heavy. We're gonna go on the Ambrose a little bit later. We're doing a cha-cha slide. We are on the light ship Ambrose. They would use like a lot of light boats along the channel to guide the ships in. 5-ton anchor that is designed to go down and stay down. This is the foghorn that they use. Wow.
Yep. So they would rain that constantly, and that's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Right, so we're now in the pilot house. This is where your captain would have stayed. Sure.
This is a binnacle. It housed the compass, and these red and green balls were supposed to help with magnetic interference from the rest of the metal ship. It's a system of bells where he could talk to 2 different rooms. There's also pipes where he could shout instructions down.
Originally,
Windlass.
this was steam powered.
To raise the anchors.
So if an anchor were to snap or something, the force that would come back would be really great. And so those help to reduce. At the same time, they worked in staggered ships. The light ships always needed to be out in the channel. The boat didn't come back in, but they always had provisions up to 10 days just in case.
So this was originally a steam engine boat, and then converted to this diesel engine here.
In
Captain's quarters.
a lot.
1921 radio
and that was
room.
another way.
Here's the channel. It gets very deep. Suddenly, it gets very not deep, which is why they needed it. Here's Staten Island. There's Governor's Island.
This is what the wheel attaches to in the front, and down below is the rudder, which helps steer the ship.
So the sails were not used for, except for stabilization, since this was a steamship first. And this was used in the early 1900s, 1901. Same time the waiver tree was, but very, very different. We got a mahi-mahi sandwich. We're gonna walk over the Brooklyn Bridge today. Down under the Manhattan Bridge is the ship that crashed into the Brooklyn Bridge last night and broke the 2 masts. There's the Empire State Building in that little opening of Manhattan Bridge. Comedy show tonight. Oh lordy.